Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is quite a good one for those of you who like your horror stories scary, but not overly gory. It is a story that I wrote some time ago, and it is one that seems to have resonated with a lot of people. I hope you enjoy it. As always, if you do, please show your support. It's the only way I can keep doing this. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media. That's where you'll find all the behind-the-scenes stuff, as well as early access to all my stories, including horror. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I remember clearly the day we moved to the old house. The realtor had just finished showing us around when she let us know she would be back later to finalize the paperwork. We didn't really need her to stay any longer. The house was a fixer-upper, but we could see past the peeling wallpaper and the threadbare carpets. In our minds, we saw the potential. For the price, it was a steal. The real estate agent left, and my wife and I started to explore more. Our 3 kids were out playing in what would soon be their new rooms. My son James was the youngest at 10 years old. My daughter Emma was 13, and our eldest Adam was 16. They were excited about their new home, though they hadn't been keen on moving from our small town. We walked into what was going to be our bedroom, and it felt stale. It must have been a long time since anyone had slept in here because dust lay thick on every surface. As we started to clear some of the cobwebs away, my wife and I started to talk about how we were going to decorate. Before long, the kids came in to check on us, and then they began helping, making suggestions about color schemes and furniture layouts. The room was soon filled with light and laughter again. At about 4 p.m., the real estate agent returned. She looked uncomfortable. Her smile seemed forced. She handed over the keys and the file and said, "Congratulations." Her eyes were fixed on mine. "You've made a smart investment," she said. "This place is solid gold." I thanked her for coming back. She mumbled something about having a late start, and then she was gone. That evening, after our kids were asleep, my wife and I stood in the kitchen and made plans for the weeks ahead. The walls in this room were going to come down, the floorboards sanded and polished, the cupboards painted a nice white. There was work to do, but it was good work, and we were excited to do it. The next morning, we were up before the sun. The kids were visiting their friends from school who lived nearby, while my wife and I got to work in the kitchen. Suddenly, the air grew cold. I pulled my jumper tighter around me and told my wife I thought the heating was on the blink. She just nodded, her attention focused on the sink. I stepped closer and asked what was wrong. She pointed to the stopper of the plug hole. It was moving slightly. "It stopped leaking now," she said quietly. I stared at it in disbelief. It was jammed in tightly. We had run a hot bath the night before. How could there still be water under the plug? Puzzled, I went to investigate. To my horror, the water wasn't coming from the bath. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. It was a small leak, but it was definitely getting worse. My wife and I looked at each other. What did it mean? Had we bought a money pit? The kids came back in from playing, so we tried to hide our worry, but they weren't fooled. "What's wrong?" Adam asked. "Nothing." My wife said quickly, "Your dad and I are just discussing how we were going to deal with the leak in the bathroom." Emma looked unconvinced. "Can we fix it?" she asked, her eyes wide. "Of course we can," I said, forcing a smile. "We'll get someone round to take a look." But secretly, I wasn't so sure. As the week progressed, the leak got bigger. The sound of dripping water echoed through the house, and it grated on my nerves. I kept thinking about the house's previous owner. Why had he stopped paying for repairs? Where was he now? Had he just walked away from his problems? I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding about the place. One afternoon, my wife and I were in town buying supplies for some much-needed repairs, when we heard about a local handyman who might be able to help. When we got home, we showed him the damage, and he gave us a quote. It was steep, but we agreed. He was an older man with kind eyes, and he set to work immediately. By the time he was done, the floorboards had been replaced and the leak was fixed. He even put down new tiles for us. We paid him, and he packed up his tools. "Thanks for your help, Mr. Jenkins," I said. "It looks so much better now." "You're welcome," he replied. "But the real work has just begun." I frowned, confused by his words. Just smiled mysteriously, and then he left. That evening, I sat in the kitchen at the table, trying to draw up some plans for renovating the rest of the house. My wife and I had a lot of work ahead of us. Then I heard it. Strange noise, a scratching sound like fingernails on wood. I told my wife what I'd heard, and she said, "Don't be silly." But then the scratching came again. This time it was louder. It sounded like it was coming from the floor above. We looked at each other, and then slowly we climbed the stairs. When we got to the top, it was silent. It probably just needed a bit of moisture, I whispered to my wife. Let's go back downstairs. The kids will be up soon. As we turned to leave, I saw it. Scratched into the wooden floorboard was a series of lines, almost like a design. It looked deliberate. My wife gasped. The floorboards had been replaced. Why had someone scratched them? Had the handyman done it? Was he playing some kind of joke? Or was there another explanation? Over the next few days, we continued to hear scratching noises, but only at night. Each morning we would wake up and search for the source of the sound. Each morning we found nothing. Fear began to grip me. What was happening? Was I losing my mind? Had my wife and kids noticed how strange I'd become? Then one evening, as I sat alone in the dark listening intently, I heard a whisper. It was barely audible, but I thought I heard someone say my name. I told my wife and she said, "Stop being ridiculous." But I knew what I'd heard. Each night the scratching became louder, the whispers more frequent. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw dark figures dancing in the shadows. They seemed to be taunting me. Were they trying to drive me insane? One night I woke up abruptly. I could hear voices whispering in the darkness. I got out of bed and crept towards the door. I had to get out of that house. I flung the door open and ran into the night. I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of a brightly lit petrol station. Shaking with fear, I called my wife from inside the shop. I told her I was too scared to come home, and I asked if she and the kids would spend the night at a hotel. "There's something in our house, something evil," I said. She didn't reply. I heard shouting in the background. Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, terrified. When I got home the next morning, I found my wife and kids huddled together on the sofa. They looked pale and frightened. "What happened last night?" I asked. My wife turned to me, her eyes red-rimmed. I think, she whispered, that we're not alone. And that's the end of today's horror story. So what do you think? Did you like it? If you did, please show your support. It really helps me out. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media. That's where you'll find all the behind-the-scenes stuff, as well as early access to all my stories, including horror. Now I'm going to leave you with a couple of other videos that you might enjoy, and until next time, take care.